Hey everyone, this is Josh from before, and I made a comic book. You may even be one of the fine folks who helped me do it. Last summer, viewers of this channel helped me crowdfund a physical print run of this book. We even went beyond the initial ask and hit some stretch goals, meaning I was able to send out not just the book, but a set of 5 trading cards and 2 stickers. So I want to make this video to document the process of making the book, offer some insights into the behind the scenes work that goes into it. I know there are viewers of this channel who are talented artists in a variety of mediums. Some of you have artistic ambitions of your own, so it's my hope that you might be able to gain something from this, whether that is inspiration or just practical how-to knowledge of tackling something like this, not just a comic per se, but really any kind of creative project. Before I get going, I want to make everyone aware that I'm working on a second issue. There's still a long way to go on that. It's probably more than a year away, but I'm going to be including fan art submissions. Listen carefully if you have any interest in having your artwork printed in a comic. So in the first book, I included a gallery section that has art in a variety of different styles from a bunch of different artists. It ranges from 2D art to physical paintings to photography to 3D sculpts. Check out these renders of a 3D action figure from a viewer of this channel. These are by the artist Yeezy. He's from Chile. You can see more of his work on Instagram, and I was thrilled to be able to include this in the book. And here are some original characters from Toy Indiverse on Instagram. They sent these pics over after they had read the first book, and these were made with photos of action figures. These pictures will be in the next issue along with many other submissions, so please, if this at all appeals to you, get in touch with me. I really want to include your work in the book. And as of the time of this recording, like I said, still probably like a year away. So there's plenty of time for you to put something together if you want to participate. Okay, now some of you may have sat through this whole spiel so far, and you don't even know what the book is about. So what we have here is a graphic design themed superhero. By day, he's a graphic designer named Matt Finish, get it? And he's living in Canvas City. His whole universe is art and design themed, and he patrols Canvas City as Drop Shadow, battling rogues like Comic Sans, Typeface, the colorblind cat burglar Heather Gray, and many more. So by now you can probably tell there's a lot of puns. If you've ever opened Photoshop or anything like that, you can probably pick up on the jokes in there. And I was very much inspired by the action comedy indie comics I used to read back in the 90s, like The Tick and Scud the Disposable Assassin. And one of the things I love most about this universe is that every time I share this concept with someone who has any kind of artistic background, they will very quickly come up with their own characters or ideas for the Drop Shadow universe. So, despite the fact that it's very much a superhero parody, people are still connecting with the concept in a genuine way. So it tends to get a good reception from the correct audience. Now, how did this all come about, making a comic? My professional background is in video, and for fun, I make short films with my friends Danny, who you may know as The Galactic Geek here on YouTube, and Wilson, you might have heard of him doing the voiceover in the Spawn Dreamhouse commercial. He was also the vape smoke blower for that shoot. So we're always cooking up silly videos. And we got together one time. Those guys had been bouncing this idea around a graphic design superhero called Drop Shadow, get it? And I said, oh yeah, right, and his secret identity is Matt Finish, ha 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 ha. And from there, it was something we continued to brainstorm with, but it wasn't really something we could shoot as a video. Cut to pandemic, lockdown. I had an iPad Pro with the Procreate app that I had been dying to use for a couple years at that point, but I never had the chance to really dive in. Now I had all kinds of time on my hands. And I'm the type who always has to turn my hobbies into something bigger. I didn't want to just do some doodles of this universe. I wanted to make something out of it. And the superhero character we had been talking about, well, that was just perfect for a comic book, right? So that's more or less where it began. Wilson had actually done the first piece of artwork. We had been talking about a look that combined graffiti artists with OG vigilante, The Shadow, hence the long trench coat and red bandana. This was also kind of an evolution of a short film we had made way back in 2011 for a competition called the 48-Hour Film Project. You basically draw prompts out of a hat, and you have to make a narrative short film in one weekend. And we were tasked with coming up with a superhero film featuring a lawyer. Those were the prompts. So we made this silly video, and we actually won Best Film and advanced to the national competition. But the reason I bring it up is you can see that we kind of already had this trench coat vigilante character floating around in our brains for some time by this point. Now, because I was extremely rusty in my drawing skills, And because I have a multimedia background, my thought was that I would do more than just a comic story. I wanted to do some photography, let my friends dress up as cool looking guys, make action figures of the characters. I wanted to create something that felt fleshed out. So that way, even if the story or the artwork was lacking in some places, it would still feel like a complete thought. And we would still get to have fun bringing this idea to life in a more complex way. So now the scope of the project was starting to form, but this was going to be a lot of stuff I'd never done before. Like I said, my background is video. I live in Premiere Pro and After Effects. I didn't have any kind of print background to speak of. And I was trying to make digital artwork that would be the appropriate resolution and dimensions to eventually be turned into physical printed pages. How the hell do I do this? And where do I turn to find out how to do this? Sometimes when I get overwhelmed by the scope of a project and the number of deliverables and the workflow required to produce the project, I like to fall back on a trusted method. So for this, I was going to follow the tried and true method of creating physical comics. I was just going to do it on the iPad. So my research tells me comic artists draw on 11 by 17 sheets. I found a template that has the appropriate bleeds and margins. And my research told me that these 11 by 17 pages are scanned at 600 DPI, which frankly seemed like overkill. So I created my own template in the Procreate app, which was 11 by 17 inches, but I went with 300 DPI. That should be plenty of resolution. So now it's time to have fun. I didn't want to worry about having a word-perfect script before I started drawing, so I did a rough treatment of the story, and I used that outline to figure out how much story or action was going to happen on each page. So that I could move forward on the artwork, I could do thumbnail layouts for the pages, and as I was doing that, I could be fleshing out the script a little more, thinking about how the characters will be interacting back and forth, how much room I'm going to need to leave in the panels for voiceover or dialogue text. Laying out the panels and pages and figuring out how the storytelling was going to play out visually was one of my favorite parts of the process. Working in video, my canvas is always a wide rectangle, but with this medium, I wasn't confined to that one shape, and I could stretch the frame in different directions and come up with creative ways to have interplay between the panels. It's a really fun medium to play with and experiment with. So the next part of the process unfolds just like physical comic. Pages are created, and you can create in whatever art style you want, but I was going for that traditional comic look. So this is just what I did. From my thumbnail layouts, I do the rough pencils, and I tighten those up until they're ready for inking. The magic of digital means I can do the pencils black and then make them blue and or turn down the layer's opacity to ink on top of that, like a light box. Now it's time for colors, and this part has the potential to be the most fun, but truthfully, it's where I struggled the most. Like I said, my background is video and animation, and the majority of the animation work I've done was done with a team of people. And most of the time, I would be animating artwork and assets that were created by other artists. So I had practically zero experience with digital painting. I was kind of trying to just muscle my way through it instead of slowing down and getting a firm grasp on all the fundamentals. Anyway, I can still show you the basic process. So you lay down flat colors, which is the basic color block, paint by numbers business. Then from here, you can go in and add shadows and highlights or lighting effects, etc. Any one part of this process could be its own video or series of videos even, and there are much better resources for art fundamentals and software tutorials. So I'm just giving you the bird's eye view of a very, very long and laborious process. Okay, art's done. That's it, right? Nope. Now it's time for lettering, and it's time to bring the pages I made with Procreate into Adobe InDesign. This is how I'll do the actual final book layout, and I'm going to end up going back and forth between InDesign and Illustrator to create the word bubbles. I refer back to my outline and my thumbnails, and now I can really go in on a panel by panel level and punch up the script and rewrite things until it flows just right and fits the negative space in a way that is aesthetically satisfying. You're still not done, by the way. You need a title treatment. You got to design that. And in our case, we had a title treatment and a logo or emblem. I was aiming for something that felt akin to the shape of Superman's S shield. So my thought was the D and S of drop shadow, making an inverted triangle. And Wilson took my chicken scratch and cleaned it up into a nice vector logo. In the process of doing that, he realized the red triangle looked like the character's red bandana. And he made this additional variation of the DS logo, and then we were like, oh, it can also kind of read as an arrow pointing down. So the logo came together in this great burst of synergistic creativity. It was so cool, I actually had real hats embroidered with the logo by an old high school friend of ours who runs a print shop on the south side of Indianapolis. One of those hats would be used as part of the live action Drop Shadow costume. We dressed up Wilson as Drop Shadow, and Galactic Geek became his sidekick, Phil Stroke, more puns. And we took photos that were used to create a Drew Struzan inspired live action movie poster for a fake MCU style Drop Shadow movie. Remember how I said I wanted to go beyond just comic pages and bring in a multimedia approach? This was a big part of it, a fake movie poster. And the other big fake ad was the toy ad. And I've made videos going over the City Dio and the individual custom figures that were created for the fake toy ad. Definitely check those out if you haven't already, but this was a ton of fun to create. And then it was time to actually print the book. That ended up being a whole saga. Kickstarter backers will know that part of the story. There were some issues, but ultimately I ended up mostly happy. I do plan on using this same printer again, and I expect to have an easier time when I do so. Again, we could get in the weeds with every detail of how this was done, but this is just meant to be a general overview. And if you have specific questions, by all means, please reach out. I will try to answer your questions the best I can, or direct you to a resource that can answer your questions better than I. Like I said, another issue is in the works. There will be another Kickstarter, probably summer of 2025 is when it will happen. There's still a long ways to go, and I'm juggling a few projects at once, including this channel. But the book is going to be pretty great. I think you can see from these sneak peeks that my artwork has turned a corner. Definitely a big improvement over the first book. And this next one is going to be twice as big. More story, more characters, more action, more pinups, more submissions from other artists, more toys, more everything. So if you want to be part of it and submit your own art, let me know. There's still plenty of time to get involved and contribute. Thanks for following along with me on this journey. There will be many more updates to come. I will talk to you all very soon. Peace out.